1978, Jack Hanna was flying to Columbus to assume his new duties as director of the zoo. And the pilot on the plane said, "But there is no zoo in Columbus." Well, today, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that there is indeed a zoo in Columbus, and Jack Hanna has put it on the map.
Thanks, Stephanie. You know, people in Columbus are real proud of their zoo. Now let's take a look at the place that I call home. The Columbus Zoo is one of the fastest growing zoos in the country. Hundreds of animals are housed here in naturalistic settings. One example is the predator-prey exhibit, where zebras, giraffes, and gazelle live under the watchful eye of the lion. We also have a pair of gorilla twins, only the third set born in captivity. But now let's go over and meet a 6-month-old moose named Reva. Reva, look here. Hey, breathe easy, baby. I guess Reva's had her bottle today. This could be a world's record. Reva's going to suck about 40 ounces down in 30 seconds. These are basically orphan moose. We're one of the few zoos in the country to raise moose east of the Mississippi. It's very difficult here with our humidity and with our weather here. Juno's only about 1.5 years old, and so you can see how quickly that a moose grows. This animal will get to be about 1,400 pounds, and they're strictly browsers. These animals eat about 20, 30 pounds of these trees each day. Moose lose their antlers every year, and obviously as the moose gets larger and larger and larger, the antlers have more, you could call them points, like a deer would be. At the Columbus Zoo, we have a real strong emphasis on education. Education really of the young people, because they're the ones that are going to inherit this earth. They're the ones that are going to inherit the problems with these animals. And if we don't teach them about how valuable the elephant is, or the rhino, or the bongo, or whatever it may be, then they're not going to care. All the conservation programs in the world aren't going to work unless young people like this appreciate animals and our Earth's resources. To that end, there are programs here for all ages, from preschoolers on up through adults. And we try to give everyone a hands-on experience with the animals. There are zoo camp programs for kids, and we offer daily demonstrations with our keepers.
The goal of all these programs is to educate the public about the plight of the animals in the wild. That's what we are trying to do, so people can understand what's happening to the animals in the wild and why they're in the situation that they're in. We certainly want to teach them things, but also we want them to have a good time. And if they are having fun while they're learning about the animals, they're going to appreciate the animals, and they're going to remember what they take away from here.
You don't have to live in Columbus to get a zoo education. Most zoos around the country have educational programs such as these. So why don't you check out your local zoo and introduce your children to an educational experience they'll never forget. Who knows, you may learn something too.
The San Diego SeaWorld inhabits 150 acres and contains virtually the full spectrum of marine life, from the simplest invertebrates to the highly evolved cetaceans, over 10,000 fish, 200 marine mammals, and 1,500 birds call SeaWorld their home. Each visitor has an opportunity to experience intimate contact with some remarkable creatures that are sure to bring out the child in everyone. But the best-loved attraction of all is the Killer Whale Show, starring Baby Shamu. Because of their proximity to the sea, SeaWorld has always had an additional responsibility, a much more serious aspect to their operations. This is a view of SeaWorld the public never gets to see. It's the base of operations for the Beached Animal Program, which began in 1964 when the park was newly opened. Since then, they have been called upon to rescue as many as 500 marine animals per year.
Sea mammals are very similar to terrestrial mammals in that they are susceptible to the whole spectrum of mammalian diseases and disorders. And seals and sea lions are no different than any of these other types of species. When these animals are too diseased or weakened by illness or injury to swim and cope with the aquatic environment, they will seek refuge on local shores or beaches. And at this time, if animals are reported in need of help, SeaWorld will respond, go out to the beach, pick the animals up, and bring them back here for treatment.
By
about 80% of the animals that we do recover in any given year are either neonates, newborns, or they're yearlings. The major problem with these young animals is malnutrition. We'll get them in here, give them a good nutritious diet, perhaps handle any parasitism problems they have with medication, and then we'll go ahead and train them on a regime of being able to catch and feed themselves on live fish. It's important that these animals be able to fend for themselves when we do release them. So we'll go ahead through a training program like that and then take them out for release.
It was SeaWorld's years of experience that led them to the ultimate test. On March 23, 1989, the supertanker Exxon Valdez ran aground in Prince William Sound, Alaska, dumping 10 million gallons of crude oil into the Sound's wildlife-rich waters.
Shortly after the oil spill in Valdez, my wife, Dr. Judy McBain, was asked to go up and assist in establishing an otter rescue center. After her arrival there, she basically found that she was confronted with pandemonium and chaos and lack of facilities. Facilities had to be built. The realization occurred pretty rapidly that they did not have facilities available locally, nor the prospects soon enough to do proper diagnostic work in kind of an expedient manner so that they could initiate appropriate treatments for the animals under their care.
We got permission to ship 6 animals to SeaWorld in San Diego from Valdez. 5 of them arrived in San Diego and came under the care of my husband, Dr. Jim McBain, who was involved 24-hour-a-day care for those animals, trying to learn, not only how to deal with those animals, but how we should deal with them when they were coming in, because we knew there were going to be lots coming in after that.
While SeaWorld staff provided the vital information needed to treat these animals, those on site worked tirelessly to tame the oil-soaked otters threatened with imminent death. It was a massive undertaking, but many were saved. The otters that were sent to SeaWorld are now part of an ongoing study monitoring the long-term effects of the oil spill.
All the animals that we have here now that came from the oil spill rehabilitation effort are all animals that we feel now are clinically normal. So we don't expect any real short-term problems with them. One of the questions is what kind of damage has been done to them that's irreparable?
These Valdez otters will continue to be housed at SeaWorld along with other beached animals that need ongoing medical treatment. But the lucky seals and sea lions who have gone through a rehabilitation process will be returned to the ocean, where they belong.
Ride's over. You're free now.
Coming up, Cincinnati's Frozen Zoo.
The Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens has come a long way since its doors opened 115 years ago. Today on exhibit are 780 species of animals and over 1,800 specimens of plant life. Over 1.2 million visitors come here each year to see rare exhibits such as the Komodo dragon, the white Bengal tiger, and insects from all over the world. The zoo is without a doubt Cincinnati's favorite family attraction. And the man responsible for that is Ed Maruska. As zoo director for the past 28 years, Dr. Maruska has watched the role of zoos change.
It's almost an awesome responsibility, and that is in preservators of species that are slowly vanishing. And that is not slowly, in some cases, rapidly vanishing, and that's occurring at an all-time high.
Like most zoos, Cincinnati is dedicated to its breeding of endangered species. But what sets them apart is that some of their methods have actually made history. Using such high-tech methods as embryo transfer and cryopreservation, the Cincinnati Zoo's Center for the Reproduction of Endangered Wildlife, or CREW, has tallied up 13 history-making events in the battle to save species from extinction. Dr. Betsy Dresser, a scientist with a PhD in reproductive physiology, heads this program.
But one day, I went to a cow farm, and they had used embryo transfer there with a cow that had produced about 10 calves within the course of a couple weeks, and they had all 10 of these calves in one corral. And it was great. It was like, when I looked at them, I thought, boy, those could be bongo or eland or endangered species of some kind. Can you imagine what this technology could do?
It took several years of research and experimentation to perfect this procedure for use on exotic animals. Quite simply, the process calls for the removal of an embryo or fertilized egg from the donor female and the transfer of the embryo to the host or surrogate mother, where it's carried to term. In 1984, this feat took on Orwellian proportions, and the world watched as a bongo was born to its surrogate mother, an eland, the product of the world's first interspecies embryo transfer.
This female, this is your famous one, is it? Yeah. This bongo female is the one that was born to the eland. We named her L.A. Delay. And she's 7 years old now. And one of the really neat things about her is that she's now given birth to her own calf, which is a female calf. And so we feel like she's normal, grown up with normal behaviors. And it's been really exciting to us.
And when she assimilated finally into the herd, there was no problem in it.
Yeah, right. We put her right into the herd as soon as she was old enough to be weaned from her mother, and she fit right in. Her behaviors were all the same. And, they accepted her, and she grew up with them. Fabulous.
Now Dr. Dresser is hoping that Cru's stature as the world leader in wildlife reproduction will allow her to realize her dream, to import and export bongos, not in crates, but in test tubes.
The ideal situation would be to bring embryos from Cincinnati Zoo to Mount Kenya Game Ranch, exchange embryos, so that what we're doing is interchanging bloodlines, but through the use of this technology.
Until Cru's new facility is ready in the spring, this former broom closet serves as Dr. Dresser's laboratory and frozen home to hundreds of very precious animals.
The frozen zoo is essentially a bank of cells frozen for hopefully hundreds of years, indefinitely. Reproductive cells, or skin cells, or whatever cells that we can acquire from wildlife that contains the DNA, if you will, or the genetic material that allows it to go on and grow and develop and reproduce. If somebody had done this with the dinosaurs, for example, today we could bring them back.
The work pioneered by Cru has only just begun, and until the day when her scientific skills are no longer needed, one thing is certain: Dr. Dresser will continue to dedicate her life to the preservation of wild species.
It's so exciting because there's so much to do, and really so little time, and so it's so important that we do this work now, particularly while we have the animals. Because, wouldn't it be awful if someday man finally figured out that he has to preserve habitat, and he turns around and says, gee, but where are all the animals?
What bird can fly without flapping its wings? Find out when we return.